I was watching the Olympics, this last Summer Olympics, and I was amazed at how bad the questions were that the reporters would ask all the athletes. And almost always, they asked the same question, whether they were about to compete or after they competed. Were you nervous, right? And to a T, all the athletes went, no, right? And what I realized is it's not that they're not nervous, it's their interpretation of what's happening in their bodies. I mean, what happens when you're nervous, right? Your heart rate starts to go, you sort of get a little tense, you get a little sweaty, right? You have expectation of what's coming, and we interpret that as, I'm nervous. Now, what's the interpretation of excited? Your heart rate starts to go, you're anticipating what's coming, right? You get a little sort of like tense. It's all the same thing, it's the same stimuli, except these athletes, these Olympic quality athletes, have learned to interpret the stimuli that the rest of us would say is nervous as excited. They all say the same thing. No, I'm not nervous, I'm excited. And so I've actually practiced it just to tell myself when I start to get nervous that this is excitement. Yeah. And so I used to speak in front of a large audience and somebody would say, how do you feel? I used to say, a little nervous. Now when somebody says, how do you feel? I'm like, really excited actually. And it came from just sort of telling myself, no, this is excitement. And it becomes a little bit automatic later on. But it's kind of a remarkable thing to deal with pressure by interpreting what your body is experiencing as excitement rather than nerves. And it's really kind of effective. It makes you want to rush forwards rather than pull back, and yet it's the same experience.
I think success is seeing those around you work to their natural best and creating momentum for a vision, towards a vision that will last beyond yourself.
So a guy is driving a bus for 20 years, got to retire. He's on Madison Avenue in New York, packed every day as people getting on that bus and getting off. He has 2 kids, wife, lives in Queens. He might call himself successful. Another guy might be vice president of that company who would call himself unsuccessful. So is success what you make of it?
So the success is defined, success is a feeling. It's not a series of check marks and goals. A lot of people set financial goals. I'm successful when I make my first million. Okay, now I have to make my second million. Success is a feeling, and it's the feeling of contribution. So your bus driver in Queens, if he has decided that his job as a bus driver is to ensure that everyone who gets on his bus feels better about themselves because they got on his bus and not another bus. And so he greets them with a smile, he says good morning, he says goodbye, that people will remember that ride that they took with him, versus this vice president of the company who's made it about himself and his financial goals. He's the one who's unhappy, as opposed to seeing those around him succeed and those around him go home with a love of their day, because they come to work in his company every day. So I still believe success and good leadership are about service to others.
You'll find is that the better you are at communicating your why, people will want to work for you regardless of the opportunity that you afford them. Like, they want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
We do a little thing, which we've been doing for years and years and years, called a give and take. Whenever there's any kind of relationship, whether it's an outside partnership or even somebody who joins our team, we do something called a give and take, where we want somebody to be selfish and selfless within the relationship. So not give and get, but give and take. So we'll ask them, what is it that you have to give to us, that you have that you think that we need, right? And they'll tell us. And then we'll say, great, what is it that you selfishly want from us? And we want them to tell us what they can get from us and no one else.
I believe in that so much.
And when those things match, you have a balanced relationship. Because, so for example, I've had it with people. They'll tell me what they have to offer, and that's awesome because that's what I want. And then they'll say what they want to take, and they go, oh, I want to work with smart people. I'm like, plenty of smart people. What is it you want to take from me? They're like, oh, I want to help build something. Wonderful, do that anywhere. What do you want to take selfishly from me that you can get nowhere else? And if they can't answer the question, I want to engage in a relationship, and the reason is because in time, the relationship is unbalanced, they're going to be giving, but they're not taking, and I don't even know how to give them what they want, then they'll complain they're not making enough money, or because it's not balanced.
That's right.
Vision, here's the thing that's always boggled my mind, right? Why is it, on balance, not always, but on balance, why is it that small companies tend to be more innovative than big companies? Right, small companies that are under-resourced, can't necessarily get the best and brightest, they're going to go out of business any day, and yet they're They come up with brilliant ideas. And big companies full of resources, full of amazing people, buy the little companies that come up with the good ideas. That's usually how big companies innovate. They buy the smaller ones, right? Why is that? Why is it that the most resource companies tend not? And I think it's a question of reality. And what I mean by that is small companies, their vision is more distant than their grasp, right? They have delusions of grandeur. We're going to change the world, change industries, reinvent this, reinvent that. We have no money and no people, but so what? My point is the grasp is shorter than the vision. And I think what happens is as companies get bigger and bigger and bigger with more and more resources, what they start to do is one of two things. Either their visions become well within their grasp and they don't readjust the vision, or they actually bring the vision back to put within their grasps, right? Make things very achievable. Difficult, but achievable. For vision to truly be vision, it should feel unachievable. When a small business gets together and says, here's our vision, everybody goes like this. How are we going to do that? In big businesses, we say, here's a vision, everybody goes, all right, yeah, no, got it. We'll do a back plan, we got that. And I firmly believe that innovation is born out of the struggle. Innovation is born out of the resourcefulness that you're forced to figure out because literally the vision is way beyond your grasp. Regardless of how many resources you have, it should always feel overwhelming and impossible. Take a group of people with tons of resources to give them a vision, they're going to go,
Okay.
Dopamine is the feeling that you found something you're looking for or that you accomplished something you set out to accomplish. So you know that feeling you get when you cross something off your to-do list? That's dopamine. Feels awesome. You know when you have a goal to hit and you achieve that goal, you're like, yes! You feel like you've won something, right? That's dopamine. The whole purpose of dopamine is to make sure that we get stuff done, right? The historical reason for dopamine, we would never eat if we only waited until we got hungry because there's no guarantee that we would find food. So dopamine exists to help us go looking for food. We get dopamine when we eat, which is one of the reasons we like eating. And so when you see something that reminds you of something that feels good, we want to do the behavior that helps us get that feeling, right? So let's say you're out there going for a walk and you see an apple tree in the distance. You get a small hit of dopamine. And then what it does is it focuses us on our goals. And now we start walking towards the apple tree. And as the apple tree starts to get a little bigger, we feel like we're making progress. You get another little shot of dopamine and another little shot of dopamine until you get to the tree and you're like, yes! Okay? This is why we're told you must write down your goals. Your goals must be tangible. There's a biological reason for that. We're very, very visually oriented animals. You have to be able to see the goal for it to biologically stay focused, right? If you don't write down your goals, if you can't see your goals, it's very hard to get motivated, to get inspired. For example, think about corporate visions, right? A corporate vision has to be something we can see, right? That's why it's called a vision. You can see it, right? To be the biggest, most respected, to be the fastest growing are not visions. They're nothing, right? What does that even look like? Respected by whom? Your mother? Yourself? Your friends? Your shareholders? Who knows? What's the metric? Dunno. It's amorphous, doesn't motivate us. Just like I can't tell you, you will get a bonus if you achieve more. You're going to ask me, how much more? I'm going to say, more. Doesn't work. You need a tangible goal. You need a tangible goal, right? Here's a great vision. Martin Luther King, I have a dream that one day little black children and little white children will play on the playground together and hold hands together. We can imagine that. We can set our sights on that. And every time we achieve a goal and achieve a metric and achieve a milestone that makes us feel like we're making progress to the vision we can see, we keep going and going and going until we achieve something remarkable. You have to be able to see it. Dopamine. Like I said, dopamine is the feeling you get when you set out to find something you're looking for as well. I talked about the to-do list. I came home from a trip just a couple days ago and I had a bunch of errands to run and I wrote down a little list of things I had to do and off I went, right? And as I was walking past, I think it was the dry cleaners, I don't remember. I was walking past something, I remembered, oh, I have to do that, and I hadn't written down on my to-do list. So I went in and finished what I needed to do, and then when I came out, I then wrote it on my to-do list and then crossed it out. Because I wanted the dopamine. Feels good. Dopamine comes with a warning. Dopamine is highly, highly, highly addictive. Here are some other things that release dopamine. Alcohol, nicotine, gambling, your cell phone. Oh, you think I'm joking? Okay, we've all been told that, if you wake up in the morning and you crave a drink, you might be an alcoholic. Well, if you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is check your phone before you even get out of bed, you might be an addict. If you walk from room to room in your own apartment holding your telephone, you might be an addict. When you're driving in your car and you get a text and your phone goes beep. We hate email, true. We love the beep, the buzz, the ding. Oh. Right? You'll be there in 10 minutes, and yet you have to look at it right now. You might be an addict. And even if you read it and it says, are you free for dinner next Thursday? And you have to reply immediately, you can't wait the 10 minutes, you might be an addict. And for all you Gen Ys out there who like to think that you're better at multitasking because you grew up with the technology, then why do you keep crashing your cars when you're texting? You're not better at multitasking, you're better at getting distracted. In fact, if you look at the statistics, ADD and ADHD have, diagnoses of ADD and ADHD have risen 66% in the past 10 years. Okay, ADD and ADHD is a frontal lobe disorder, right? Are you telling me out of nowhere 66% of our youth have a frontal lobe problem? Where did that come from? No, it's a misdiagnosis, right? What are the symptoms of a dopamine addiction to technology? Distractibility, inability to get things done, easily distracted, shortness of attention. It's all the same thing, so we misdiagnose things. It's the addictive quality of dopamine. We can also get addicted to performance in our companies when all they do is give us numbers to hit, numbers to hit, numbers to hit, and a bonus you get, and a bonus you get, and a bonus you get. All they're doing is feeding us with dopamine, and we can't help ourselves. All we do is want more, more, more. It's no surprise that the banks destroyed the economy, because one of the things we know about dopamine addict is they will do anything to get another hit, sometimes at the sacrifice of their own resources and their relationships. Ask any alcoholic, gambling addict, or drug addict. Ask them how their relationships are doing and if they've squandered any of their resources. It's an addiction. Dopamine is dangerous if it is unbalanced. It is hugely helpful when in a comfortable and balanced system, but when unbalanced, it's dangerous and it's destructive.
A few months ago, I stayed at the Four Seasons in Las Vegas. It is a wonderful hotel. And the reason it's a wonderful hotel is not because of the fancy beds. Any hotel can go and buy a fancy bed. The reason it's a wonderful hotel is because of the people who work there. If you walk past somebody at the Four Seasons and they say hello to you, you get the feeling that they actually wanted to say hello to you. It's not that somebody told them that you have to say hello to all the customers, say hello to all the guests, right? You actually feel that they care. Now, in their lobby, they have a coffee stand. And one afternoon, I went to buy a cup of coffee, and there was a barista by the name of Noah who was serving me. Noah was fantastic. He was friendly and fun, and he was engaging with me, and I had so much fun buying a cup of coffee, I actually think I gave 100% tip, right? He was wonderful. So as is my nature, I asked Noah, do you like your job? And without skipping a beat, Noah says, I love my job. And so I followed up. I said, what is it that the Four Seasons is doing that would make you say to me, I love my job? And without skipping a beat, Noah said, throughout the day, managers will walk past me and ask me how I'm doing, if there's anything that I need to do my job better. He said, not just my manager, any manager. And then he said something magical. Right, they catch us when we do things wrong. He says, when I go to work there, I like to keep my head under the radar and just get through the day so I can get my paycheck. He says, here at the Four Seasons, I feel I can be myself. Same person, entirely different experience from the customer who will engage with Noah. So we in leadership are always criticizing the people. We're always saying, we gotta get the right people on the bus. I've gotta fill my team. I gotta get the right people. But the reality is, it's not the people, it's the leadership. If we create the right environment, we will get people like Noah at the Four Seasons. If we create the wrong environment, we will get people like Noah at Caesar's Palace. It's not the people. And yet we're so quick to hire and fire. You can't hire and fire your children. If your kids are struggling, we don't say, you got to see at school, you're up for adoption. So why is it that when somebody has performance problems at work, why is it that our instinct is to say, you're out? We do not practice empathy. What does empathy look like? Here's the lack of empathy. This is normal in our business world. You walk into someone's office, someone walks into our office and says, your numbers have been down for the third quarter in a row. You have to pick up your numbers, otherwise I can't guarantee what the future will look like. How inspired do you think that person is to come to work the next day? Here's what empathy looks like. You walk into someone's office, someone walks into your office and says, your numbers are down for the third quarter in a row. Are you okay? I'm worried about you. What's going on? We all have performance issues. Maybe someone's kid is sick. Maybe they're having problems in their marriage. Maybe one of their parents is dying. We don't know what's going on in their lives. And of course it will affect performance at work. Empathy is being concerned about the human being, not just their output. And we have to practice empathy. There are known and unknown players. You don't know all the competitors necessarily in one industry to another. The rules are changeable. We haven't all agreed what the rules are. And there is no winning the game of business, right? The game just perpetuates. In fact, the game of business has existed longer than every single company on the planet today, and it will outlast every single company on the planet today. If you look at the Dow Index of 30-something odd companies that make up the Dow Index, something like 70 or 80% of those companies are 35 years or younger, right? So it gets me thinking, if you listen to the language that companies use, they don't know what game they're in. They talk about being number one. They talk about beating their competition based on what agreed upon criteria, based on what agreed upon time frame. Is it market share? Is it profits? Is it revenues? Square footage, number of employees? Over what? 1 month? 5 months? 6 months? A year? 5 years? 10 years? The life of the company? I haven't agreed to those rules. And so companies can arbitrarily declare themselves number one in anything they want if they set the standards and the time frames. And the only reason we do these things on an annualized basis, we tend to compare ourselves to other organizations annually, is only because we pay taxes annually. If we paid taxes every 18 months, that would be sort of the standard. But again, we still haven't agreed what the metrics are to be number one. That means the companies that are playing the infinite game are playing against most of the others who are playing the finite game, means those finite companies find themselves in quagmire. Almost every single bankruptcy, not almost every single bankruptcy is a company that's run out of the will or the resources to play. They drop out of the game will persist, another company will fill their space. It's not like the business stops or the industry ends. And the companies that are playing the infinite game will frustrate those finite players, which I absolutely adore. So I spoke at an education summit for Microsoft. I also spoke at an education summit for Apple. Now, I would say about 70 to 80% of the executives at Microsoft spent about 70 to 80% of their PowerPoints talking about how to beat Apple. At the Apple Summit, 100% of the executives spent 100% of their presentations talking about how to help teachers teach and how to help students learn. One was obsessed with their journey, with their vision, with their cause. The other one was obsessed with their competition. Guess who's stuck in quagmire? Guess who's frustrated by their competition? I did a little experiment with a homeless person. Not like on them, it's not like electrodes. With them, voluntarily helped me. Because the whole idea of giving, right? You've all walked down the street and you've all seen someone begging and you either have or haven't thrown a few pennies in their cup. When you do, you feel good. You bought that feeling. That is a legitimate commercial transaction. You know, commercial transactions are defined as the exchange of consideration. There was an exchange of consideration here. You gave money, you got the feeling of goodwill. You paid for that feeling. If you didn't give money, you either feel nothing or you feel bad.
You can't feel good by not giving, all right? You paid for that feeling. So now the question is, how is that person encouraging us to give? The joke is, they act like every corporation in the world. They talk about themselves. Me, 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 right? Like they sit there with their little outdoor advertising, little sign, right? And it says, I'm homeless, I'm hungry, I got 12 kids, I'm a veteran, God bless. They got it all in there, trying to appeal to somebody, the religious vote, the veteran vote, you know, the child sympathizer, surround yourself with lots of pets, go for that one too, right? All in an attempt to get something from someone. Takers, not givers, right? All about me. Well, what do corporations do? We've added more RAM, we've added more ROM, we've added more speed. This one's number one. We're the biggest, we're the best. We've been around since 1969. We're better than them, we're faster than them. We're more efficient than that one. Me, 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 me. And so even if we buy their product, guess what? We don't really feel much. So I did this little experiment. I found a nice homeless lady on the streets of New York who's willing to help out. And I learned that with her sign, which was pretty typical, I'm homeless, I'm hungry, blah, 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 she makes between $20 and $30 a day for her day's worth of work, 8 to 10 hours of sitting there selling Goodwill. 8 to 10 hours, she'll make $20 to $30. $30 is considered a good day. I changed her sign, and the new sign made her $40 in 2 hours. And then she left. It's one of the reasons she's homeless is because she's decided that she only needs $20 to $30 a day to live. If she stayed, she would have made $150. The point is she made $40 in 2 hours. What did the sign say? The sign said, if you only give once a month, please think of me next time. It has nothing to do with the taker. It has everything to do with the giver. And what are the objections people give when they don't give? I can't give to everyone. How do I know that they really need it? And so I addressed both those concerns. I know you can't give to everyone, so if you only give once a month, my cause is legitimate. I will still be here when you're ready to give. $40, 2 hours. Make it about them, not about you. The fact of the matter is 100% of customers are people. And 100% of clients are people. And 100% of employees are people. I don't care how good your product is, I don't care how good your marketing is, I don't care how good your design is. If you don't understand people, you don't understand business. We are social animals, we are human beings, and our survival depends on our ability to form trusting relationships. Do you ever watch Deadliest Catch on the Discovery Channel? I was flipping through the channels one night and Deadliest Catch came on. And on this episode, just random, they were in a huge storm. Now, for those of you who don't know Deadliest Catch, they take these crab fishing boats out in the Bering Sea, which is like terrible, and they put cameras on them, and we watch, right? The reason that's, I guess, significant is because these crab fishermen have, I think, one of the top 5 deadliest jobs in the world. You know, I don't know what the exact number is, but dozens of fishermen die every year doing this. We apparently find that entertaining, which it actually is. So they have cameras only on 5 or 6 of the ships, even though there are many, many, many ships that go out fishing every season, and they don't really come into proximity with each other because the ocean's huge, and they usually sabotage each other and give each other false information because they're all competitors. They're all looking to get the crabs and make sure that they find them and somebody else doesn't. And it's business, right? It's just business. It's okay. We all do the same thing in our own companies. And in this one episode, this big, huge storm was so violent that they had to bring all the pots, which are the big cages that they catch the crabs in. They had to bring all the pots back on the boat and wait out the storm. And just by dumb luck, one of the boats that had cameras on it was in proximity of a boat that didn't have cameras on it. And so they had secured all their pots on the deck, and so they started filming the other boat. And they filmed a guy climbing on the outside of the cage, securing the pots. And all of a sudden, a huge wave hits the side of the boat, and the guy's not there anymore. And the people on the boat with the cameras start screaming, "Man overboard, man overboard, man overboard." And they turn their boat towards where they think he might be.
He's a stranger. They don't know him. They don't know the crew members of the other boat. And yet they react. And they turn towards him. And they find him in the drink. And for those of you who don't understand how dangerous this is, if the water is so cold that if you're in the water for, I think that it's a minute or a minute 30, hypothermia will set in and you die. And they come upon him, and he's screaming, "Don't let me die, don't let me die." And they pull him on board, not out of the woods yet. They strip off his clothes because it's wet and cold, and they wrap blankets around him to prevent hypothermia from setting in. And he survives. And it's overwhelming. And the captain comes down, and this is all on, I mean, you can go watch it on TV. The captain comes down, and he hugs this stranger, this young man, his competitor. He hugs this guy as if he's his own son. I lost it. Everybody is crying. And you realize what happened here was a human interaction. And the reason they risk their own lives to help this other person, even though they spend every other day trying to get ahead and sabotage, is because at the end of the day, they're all crab fishermen. And they know something about each other. And they know something about the risk that they all take to do this. And when push comes to shove, they will put themselves out there to help each other for no other reason than they get it. They're one of the same. I will promise you that every single member of that crew that day went home with a feeling of fulfillment. I promise you that every single person on that crew that day felt more good in their hearts and in their jobs than the richest days that they've ever pulled in. My question is what are you doing to help the person next to you? Don't you want to wake up and go to work for the only reason that you can do something good for someone else? Wouldn't you want them to do that for you?
There's a brilliant leader by the name of David Marquet who wrote a book called Turn the Ship Around. And he had an experience as a submarine captain on the USS Santa Fe where he realized that as much as he knew about submarining, you know, he'd been a submariner his whole career, that put on this new submarine, he learned the hard way that he actually didn't know how the submarine worked. He made an order that nobody knew how to do it because that didn't exist on that sub. And so he realized he had no choice but to trust his people. And he went through this transformation as a leader of telling everybody what to do to allowing people to tell him what should be done. And I've learned a lot from him, and I highly recommend his book. And I've really learned that, which is, you know, at the top of the organization, as David says, the people have all the authority, the leaders have all the authority, but at the bottom they have all the context, right? And so you can't just push all the context up, you have to push the authority down. And so the responsibility of leadership is to train people, make sure that they have the skill set, help build their confidence that they have the confidence to do what needs to be done. Yeah. They have to have competence and confidence. Right. And that's your job. That's the only job of the leader. It's like a parent. Mm-hmm. Make sure they have competence and confidence. You know, make sure your kids get schooling and make sure that they believe in themselves. And then leave them, you know? And so I've done the same thing. Instead of sort of showing people how I would do it, I want them to learn how it's done, you know, and feel good about themselves, and then just however they do it is how they do it. Yeah. You know, and the result is remarkable. People feel better about coming to work. They feel like they have something to contribute. They feel more valuable, as opposed to just being told this is how I would do it, or I'm going to do it this way, or do it my way. Completely changing my understanding of my job as more like a parent than a manager has had remarkable impact.
Speak to businesses and companies and leadership teams and employees and stuff. Without mentioning names, I don't want to put you on the spot, but have you gone and talked to a company that's been in trouble and then spoken to their team and then checked in on them after you've spoken to their leadership team? And what did that look like? Did you notice a noticeable change? Did they come to you and tell you that this has helped our organization out and our culture is much improved because of it?
You mean, does my work? I mean, sure. Here's the problem with my stuff. You got to do it. And I'm not anybody's like, you know, mom or dad. I'm not going to do it for you. And I have a very laissez-faire approach of it. I once had a client, this is a bunch of years ago, that said, "What guarantee do I have that your stuff will work?" To which my answer was, none. Like, I'm giving you a tool. It's like a hammer. You can use it broadly or narrowly. You can build a table, you can build a house. It's the same tool. You can use it for marketing, you can use it to completely revitalize your entire culture. And even though I'm going to sell you the most beautiful hammer, I'm not going to guarantee the structural integrity of the house, right? It's your business. You want to ignore all my stuff? Ignore it. I don't care. And if your business collapses, you know what happens to me? Nothing. Like, I don't mean to be cold about it. Like, of course I want the people I work with to do well, but it's not mine. It's theirs. And I take no emotional responsibility for the decisions they make. So yes, there are many people that I've had the pleasure of working with, some who worked for dysfunctional organizations, that went on the hard journey of completely changing the way they lead and completely revitalizing their culture, and it has great success. It's not because of me, it's because of them, right? At the same time, there are many people who came in like, what an amazing speech, and did nothing. You know, thanks, that was great, you know? And of course it's gonna fail, you know? So I think that we have too much, especially in the consulting world or the design world, everybody's so paternalistic about it. Designers are famous for this, right? They get so personally offended when the client chooses the wrong thing. Oh, they're such idiots. Don't they know we're trying to help them? Or who cares? Like, it's their freaking business, right? That's what you find. I've had that. Instead of arguing with somebody for them to make the right choice, because we genuinely want to help them, what I have found is if you push the accountability onto, because when we argue, we're taking accountability. This is better. This will help you. We're taking responsibility, accountability. But if we say, look, we've been doing this a bunch of years, we know more about design than you do, I'm telling you, for every reason that I can outline for you, why this will help you more. But if you don't want to do it, that's fine. It's your business. Do what you want. The minute you switch the accountability and put it all on them, amazingly, they're much more open to your opinion. Because now they're responsible.